Yeah, Unati.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask if we ever gonna do Pythagoras.
Pythagoras, we're definitely going to do Pythagoras. We're going to do it when we start working with some measurements, a little bit later in the term.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Do you like Pythagoras? Is that why? I mean, it's a cool theorem, I guess. Okay, so let's get off. She's like, no, promise it'll be fine. Let's try to do a quick recap of what we did on Thursday. If you are brand new, please don't panic. We're going to go through all of the stuff that we did on Thursday. We're going to go through it a little bit today, and then we're going to go through some new questions. But what we've been focusing on is quadratic equations, or equations that might even be more than quadratic when we have more than one answer for x. So if we have a look at this first question over here, I have already factorized it for you. So it's completely factorized, and I would like to know what my answers for x would be, just in question 1. So for the moment, you can forget about question 2. I just want you to focus on question 1 at the moment. I would like to know what are my values for x, and how can I figure them out? So sort of to talk me through this one a little bit. Who thinks they can have suggestions on how we could go about this? Who's feeling brave? Tiana, there we go. Can you talk me through this a little bit?
Okay, yeah, I can.
Okay.
So the value outside, the x outside is 0.
Okay, so this x over here, you're saying that that one's equal to 0. Ooh.
Yes, if I'm right.
Very large. Okay, there we go. So that x is, I'm just going to write exactly what you're going to say, and you're going to try and explain to me why afterwards, okay?
Okay, the x on the outside is 0.
Okay.
And then we say x minus 4 equals 0 plus 4.
So therefore
and equals to 0. And
Good.
then x will equal to plus like positive 4.
Good. And then the
other
last one
will be or x minus 9. Am I right? Or like
yeah. All good so far.
plus, I think it's plus.
Plus 9. Oh, yep, it is.
Yeah,
so what would x be equal to?
Plus, and then x will be negative 9.
Beautiful. And you even said my ors, which makes me very happy. Great. Can you tell me why? Why was I allowed to say that this is equal to 0, or this is equal to 0, or this is equal to 0? Why was I allowed to say that?
Because like a positive 4 minus a 4 equals 0. And a negative 9 plus a 9 equals 0. And then the x on the outside is just blowing there.
Yeah, so what you're saying is great. So you're saying if this x was a positive 4, 4 minus 4 would be 0. If this was a negative 9, negative 9 plus 9 is 0, and that would be a 0, right? So that was great, Tiana. You said that beautifully. Basically, what we're using here is we're using this rule that 0 times anything. So if I had 0 times 5, my answer is going to be 0. So we're using this mentality. So we're saying either this must be 0 because that's x times this bracket, or this bracket must be 0, or this bracket must be 0. And that gives us our 3 different answers for x. Now, because we have 3 different answers, this actually isn't a quadratic. This is a cubic equation. But you would never have to factorize. This type would be given to you. Unati, is this a question, or are you wanting to answer something?
Ma'am, it's a question. Do you have to write that first x equals to 0, or can we just let the x follow it?
No, that one's very important. So that's one of our answers that we have to have.
Ma'am, but we did this last week.
Yeah. So can you tell me which one we can ignore? So there's a different kind of question where I can ignore it. It's not when it's an x, though. Can you think of what it could be?
Ma'am, there's a question that we did like this last week. It's the exact same thing. And so
it would be very, very similar. But there would have to be one thing that's different.
Ma'am, there's nothing different. And
I
answered the question. Ma'am, it's x, open bracket, x minus 4, close bracket, open bracket, x plus 9, close bracket, equals to 0.
Yes. So we have 3 answers.
Ma'am, but last week we wrote 2 answers.
I can go to last week's notes and Nati. I think you just didn't write it down, but there definitely would have been 3
Ma'am,
answers.
but I answered the question.
Yeah, and then we had a whole long chat about it, remember? I said, what about this X over here? And you said, no, we can forget about that X because we forgot about the number.
No, ma'am.
I think we need to go and rewatch the videos to prove who's right over here. If I had something like that, for example, okay, so I've got a number chilling on the outside of that bracket, then that 4 I can ignore. So because it's a number, I'm allowed to ignore it, because if I said 0 divided by 4, it would become 0. And so in this case, I would just say, therefore, x minus 5 is equal to 0, which means x would be 5. But if there was an x out there, so if I had x minus 5 equals 0, I would have to say x is equal to 0 or x is equal to 5.
Ma'am, but I'm looking at the question.
I promise though.
Okay, ma'am.
I promise I'll even go and scroll back for you. I'll just do it when we get to the end of the lesson so I don't waste time for everyone else. But I promise I'll scroll back for you.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let's have a look here. So that one was fully factorized for us. We've spoken now, if we have a number that's chilling on the outside, we can just ignore it. It would be equal to 0, so we don't need to worry. But if we have an x, we definitely need to work out what that value for x is. Okay. All right, let's have a look at 2. So for number 2, I have not factorized it for you. So you have to factorize it. You see, but not even Precious is backing me up here. Thank you, Precious. Okay, question 2, you first are going to have to factorize. And once you have factorized, then you can give me my answer. This one should be exceptionally easy right now. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Something on the screen. What would my 2 answers be for question 2? Fatu, hello. Can you help me out with question 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what am I going to do?
Ma'am, you're going to take out a highest common factor.
Beautiful. So what's that going to look like?
X bracket x minus 5.
Nice. Okay, and that's going to be equal to 0. And then where do I go to from there?
Our x is equal to 0.
Beautiful.
Or x minus 5 is equals to 0.
Hmm.
X is equals to 0 plus 5. And therefore our x is 5.
Yes, beautiful. Nice. Excellent, excellent. Can you, while you're on the line, can you tell me how you know this is a quadratic question? What about it makes you know that it's quadratic? Not sure?
The x squared.
Yes, there we go. Oh, goodness. I thought that was a highlighter, but I was just aggressively crossing it out. The x squared is telling us it's quadratic. Okay, great. When we see that something's quadratic, Fatih, I'm just keeping you on the line and putting you under like a fire of questions now. When we know something is quadratic, can you think of the 2 things that we need to think of when we see an x squared in an equation?
Of separating it.
So there's one thing that we have to always think first. This one, it was already done for us as a hint. And then there's a second thing we need to think of. Who thinks they can help?
The equation should always be equal to 0.
Yes, good. Okay, so that's the first thing we want to do. So the equation always needs to be equal to 0. And what's the second thing? And it's something that you did.
That I did.
Yeah. It's what you did in this step over here. What's that process called? What did you do?
Factorize.
Yeah, factorize. There you go. Excellent. Okay, good. Nice, nice. And you dealt with that pressure so well. Good work. Okay, so when we see that something is a quadratic equation, the first thing we want to do is we want to move it all to one side and make it equal to 0. And the second thing we want to do is we want to factorize. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure who this is, but hello, what's your name?
Ma'am, it's MK again, ma'am.
Oh, MK. I swear you never come in here with the same name, ever.
Ma'am, it's because I'm in the car again.
I'm always shook. Okay, how can I help, MK?
Okay, so ma'am, I wanted to ask, isn't the x minus 5 equals to, okay, yes, x minus 5 has to be equal to 0, but wouldn't then x be equal to plus 5?
It is. That's why there's no negative number here. It's just a positive.
Oh, okay.
You're good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, but Alvarez, that's true. It's you and MK. You two are my little aliases. Okay, let's try one more, and then let's jump into some trickier ones that we're going to deal with today. Okay, so we've got 2 open bracket x squared minus 16 close bracket equals 0. So it's already equal to 0, so that first thing has been done for us, which is great. Dots, yes, great. I love it. I love it. Okay. Guys, if you think you have the answers, chuck them in the chat for me. You know I love it seeing your answers. Chuck them in the chat. Get that hand up. Let's have a look. Okay. Unati, talk me through this one.
Okay, ma'am. So what you're gonna do first is you're gonna do dots.
Good. Okay. What am I going to do with my dots?
So ma'am, is gonna be 2 open bracket x minus 4 close bracket open bracket x plus 4 equals to 0.
Beautiful. Next thing.
Ma'am, and then now can you get rid of the 2?
Yes, you can. Why can you get rid of the 2?
Ma'am, is it because it's a whole number?
Yes, so 0 divided by 2 would just become 0. And so when we have a number that's chilling out there, we get to ignore it.
So ma'am, it's gonna be x minus 4 equals to 0 or x plus 4 equals to 0.
Nice.
Therefore, my 2 answers are gonna be x equals to 4 and x equals to negative 4.
Beautiful, 100%. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Nice job. Okay, loving it, guys. Let's go into some slightly trickier ones now. So this was just recapping what we did last week. So now we're going to do ones that are slightly more complicated. Not all of them are going to be horrible. Like this one's not too bad. Oh, Yusuf, let us know how it went. These marks would be between 2 and 3. Where did the 4 come from? So when we do dots, what we do is we square root this first term, and that's going to go at the beginning of both of our brackets. And then we square root our second term, and that goes at the end of both of our brackets. And we have a minus, and we have a plus. That's what happens when we do dots. And if you're new, and so you haven't heard the word dots coming from anyone before, that's just our fun way of saying difference of 2 squares. So you might have learned that from factorization in class. If you've written your maths exam or maths test, please let us know how it's going. You know how it is. And yeah, keep us in the loop on what's going on. Okay, so we're going to look at slightly more complex ones today. The reason that this one is slightly more complex is because we have to do something. So I'm just going to talk you through this one first, and then I'm going to let you try some alone. If you haven't gotten your tests or exams back yet, that's normal. When you do get them back, let us know. So when we have an equation and we see we have this x squared over there, we need to think of 2 things, and that's what we spoke about just now. That x squared is telling us it is quadratic, okay? And when it is quadratic, we need to think of 2 things. The first thing we need to think of is we need it to be equal to 0. The second thing we need to think of is that we are going to need to factorize. And if we are factorizing, we want to think, can I take out a highest common factor? Can I do difference of 2 squares? Can I do a trinomial? Those are sort of the 3 things we think about. Okay, so first step, it's quadratic. We want to move it onto one side and make it equal to 0. So 2x squared minus 50. So we're moving that 50 over. When it jumps over the equal sign, it changes its sign, and that's going to be equal to 0. Oh no, ink a circle, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. Okay. When we get to this point over here, we have to think, can I factorize? Now, when we factorize, the first thing we have to look for is there a highest common factor? And if there is a highest common factor, we have to take it out. So in this case, we have a highest common factor of 2. So I'm going to take out my 2, and I'm going to be left with 2, and then open bracket x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. Now, some people in our class last week, they divided by a number, which is also fine. So you could have also, at this point over here, divided everything by 2. It's doing the exact same thing, and you would have been left with x squared minus 25 is equal to 0. Totally fine to do it that way. So I'm just going to follow on the left over here. Now, that 2, we get to ignore it because it's just a number. So we get to pretend it's not there. And we can focus on this x squared minus 25, and we're going to do dots. So the first thing we did here is we took out a highest common factor. Now we're going to do dots. So I'm going to not write my 2, and I'm going to have x plus 5, x minus 5 is equal to 0. Then I'm going to say this bracket could equal 0. Sorry guys, my pen is very excited today for some reason. And then x minus 5 could be equal to 0. So x plus 5 is equal to 0, or x minus 5 is equal to 0, which means x is negative 5 or x is 5. And those are my 2 answers. And if we have an x squared, we're always going to have 2 answers. If we have an x cubed in a situation, we would have 3 answers. If we have a single x, we have 1 answer. Okay, so if you don't have 2 answers and you have an x squared, then you know you've gone wrong somewhere. And Tlengi, how can I help?
Ma'am, I just wanted to ask, let's say you try to solve for x, you divide the number by 2, and you square root the number to get rid of the 2. Wouldn't that be 25? I'm confused about that part, ma'am.
Yeah, so the problem with doing it that way, you can do it that way. You are allowed to. So we could divide this straight by 2 and have x squared is equal to 25. I can definitely do that. Now, when we square root, you're saying, well, my answer would be 5, right? The problem with that is then we're losing out this answer over here. So as long as you can remember that when you square root something, you would always have a plus and minus. So when we square root something, we have plus or minus the square root of 25, which means x would be positive or minus 5. Then you completely can do it that way, and there's no worries at all. The reason I don't generally sort of promote this way is because people often forget about this plus and minus, and so then they lose a mark because they don't have both answers.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. How and where do we use dots? Okay, so dots we use when we have, it's kind of in the word. So dots, the D stands for difference. So we need to have a minus sign. That's what the D for difference is. Of is just for of. T is 2. So we need to have 2 terms, the x squared and the 25. Those are my 2 terms. And the S stands for squared. So they both have to be square numbers. So x squared is a square number and 25 is a square number. And so if all 3 of those things are met, then we can do difference of 2 squares. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to put 2 on the board at the same time. And those of you who are working a bit faster, you can give both a try. And then we'll go through them. And if you feel confident in answering one, let us know. Put your answers in the chat, ask questions. If you have any questions, just put that hand up and I will happily chat to you. My headphones tried to escape my face. Okay, I'm seeing some answers coming in. Fikile, be careful with something. I think you may not have taken out a highest common factor. I think you may have fallen for my trappy trap. There's a big trap in B. Don't fall for the trap that I have set you guys. See if anyone lands up falling in it. Kira fell it. Kira, I'm putting your name in. If anyone else falls in the trap, let us know. Angela's in the trap. Jasmine's in the trap. Guys, trappy trap. Okay, let's have a look. Junior, hello.
Hello, Miss.
Are you going to answer or do you have a question?
I'm going to try to answer this question.
Okay, great. Tell me what you think I should do for B.
Okay, on the following step, we're going to say 4x squared minus 16 is equals to 0. And then
I like it. Carry on going.
And then on the other step, we'll say 4 and put brackets and 2 brackets. Then we'll say x, and then we'll look for the highest common factor of 16. And I think it's 8. Then we'll say x minus 8. And then we'll put another bracket and say x plus 8.
Okay. You know what? I think you were on the right track, but I think what happened is I think you fell into my trap and then got a little bit confused with the square rooting, because I think what you wanted to try do, I might be wrong, but I think you wanted to try and do dots with both of those. So square root both. I think that might be what happened over there. But it's like you were on a good track. I'm going to help you out a little bit, but stay on the line with me. Let's see if we can work through this together. If we're taking out a highest common factor, what number would be my highest common factor of 4 and 16? What number can go into both of those?
I think it's 4, Miss.
Yes, great. Okay, my highest common factor is 4. Excellent. Okay, so what would be left inside my brackets if I took my 4 out as a highest common factor?
Come again.
So think now, this first term, when I multiply it,
come again.
When I multiply this 4 by this first term, I need to get 4x squared. So what's going to go in that space over there? And don't panic. I know you put under pressure here. I get it.
The network, Miss, come again.
Okay. So, Junior, when we're taking out a highest common factor, I'm taking out 4. And so what I would have left in this first place is I'd have x squared, because 4 times x squared is going to give me 4x squared. I know the network's not great. Don't panic too much. Junior, I'm going to mute you, but please don't panic.
Okay.
I'm here with you and we're going to carry on working through this. Okay. I'm seeing some great answers coming through in the chat here though. So we're going to have -4, because 4 times -4 is going to give us that -16. Okay. All right. Let's have a look. I've got lots of hands over here. I'm just going to try and go over here. Amber, can you finish this one off for me?
Okay, I'm going to try to finish this one off. So, okay, this will be x squared minus 4 equals 0.
Yeah.
And the next step is x minus 2 in brackets. And then the next bracket is x plus 2 equals 0.
Beautiful.
And then you're going to say x minus 2 equals 0.
Good.
Or x plus 2 equals 0.
Yes.
And then the final step is x equals 2. And then
Yes.
x equals -2.
Woohoo! Yay! Excellent, guys. Nice. Nice. Well done, Amber. Oh, you raised our happy face. There we go. Nice job, Amber.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, let's have a look. Who else have I got over here? I'm hoping some of you were able to jump out of that trap if you landed in it at some point. If you said positive, no, so over here, if you said x plus 2, x minus 2, that's totally fine. That's not a problem. Yeah, I brought the bow back, guys. The bow is coming back. So for this one, we wouldn't be able to use another method of factorizing. We could only use difference of two squares and highest common factor for this guy. Okay, let's have a look. Jasmine, I see this hand. How can I help?
Can I come out of the trap now?
Are you out of the trap?
I understood my mistake.
Excellent, great. I'm so proud of you. Nice job. Okay, if your hands are up with questions, please leave them up. I'm going to slowly deal with them from the bottom, and then we'll try and go from there. Okay, if they're not up for questions, then just drop them down for me so that I know who has questions. Shaden, how can I help? So you've just got to push the button on your side. Yeah, there we go. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, beautifully.
I don't know if this question has been answered, but I wanted to ask, how do you know when you must factorize or use dots?
Okay, so dots is part of factorizing. So it's one of our things with factorizing. We're always going to factorize an equation if there's an x squared involved. So every time there's an x squared, we're going to factorize. And when we factorize, we think of the three main things. So we think, can we take out a highest common factor? Can we do difference of two squares? Or is it a trinomial? So all three of these are forms of factorization.
Okay.
Okay, so whenever there's an x squared in the equation, we are going to factorize, and then we have to think which one of these are we going to use.
Okay, okay, I understand now.
Okay, cool, great.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, Yusuf, yes, hello. Hello. So what happened to the 4 outside the brackets was because it's a whole number, 0 divided by 4 would just be 0. So we can just remove the 4. Yusuf, hello. Okay. Futi, can I help?
Ma'am, I do not understand. I do not understand number B because I'm trying to get out of the trap, but I cannot do so. Can you please explain to me step-by-step process?
Okay, so step-by-step process in B is the first thing we did was we took out a highest common factor. So we took out the number that was common in both 4 and 16, which is 4. Took out the highest common factor. Okay, that's first step. Second step is because this is a 4, 0 divided by 4 is 0, so we can ignore it. Okay, and so then we looked at this x squared minus 4 and we did difference of two squares. That's what we did in the second step.
Okay.
Difference of two squares. And then once we've done difference of two squares, we can just say that means that this bracket equals 0 or this bracket equals 0. And that gave us our two answers.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Great. Okay. Guys, the two hands that are still up, are there questions for this? Or are they answering for the next one? Let's have a look. MK? Oh, that was my fault. Sorry. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to ask what happened to the 4 because we had
so when
4
when we've got a whole number that's outside of the bracket like that, I can always just say 0 divided by 4, which just becomes 0. So when we have a whole number that's outside the bracket, we can ignore it, and it can fall away.
And then, so we don't include it in the answer.
No, only if it's a number though. If it's an x, then we have to include it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to move on to the next question. If you have questions and your hand is up, can you just post them in the chat for me, please? Just because I'd like us to just keep moving from here. I think we've been on this question for a while. Yes, I know your hands, but I've been trying to unmute you and it doesn't unmute. So just chuck your question in the chat for me. I think these two hands that are up there were to answer this question. So I'm going to unmute for a second. Tiana, are you answering C for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Talk me through it.
I feel very confident about this one. Anyway, babe, the number C, I say how we start the sum is you have to see if it's a quadratic and it must equal to 0.
Good,
So
it's
we're
a
gonna
quadratic.
say, so it's gonna be x to the power of 2 minus negative 2x minus 15.
Beautiful. So our first step is we want it to be equal to 0 because it's a quadratic. Great, great.
Now we know that it must be a trinomial.
Beautiful.
The pairs of 15, which is 1 and 15 and 5 and 3. And then 5 minus 3 equals, oh wait, it's negative 5 plus 3 equals
Yes, you didn't fall for the trap. Well done.
So it's going to be x minus 5 and x plus 3.
Woohoo!
0. And then x, and then we say x minus 5 equals 0. And then x will equal to positive 5. And then the other side will be x plus 3 equals 0. And then x will equal to negative 3.
Nice job. Beautiful. Well done. Lovely, Tiana. Nice job. Okay. Yusuf, this urgent question. Put your hand up so we can deal with this urgent communication as necessary question. But chuck that hand up so that I can unmute you. And if it is not the most critical question ever, I'm going to judge you so heavily. There's going to be so much judgment coming your way. Okay, we're all waiting with bated breath though. Yusuf, how can I be of service? You have to unmute your side. Are you scared to unmute now? Why? I'm saying ask to unmute, so on your side it should let you unmute. You just got to push the button. Yourself. Okay, while you're dealing with it's okay, sweetheart. I'm just teasing you. Okay, Nkosi, how can I help? Hello. There we go. Hello.
Ma'am, can ma'am explain the whole thing, especially the thing there at the side with the 115, -5, and +3, because I don't understand anything.
Okay, were you in our lessons when we did factorizing?
Yes, ma'am.
You were there. Okay, I think then what you need to do, sweetheart, is have a look on the Watobe website. Go and have a look where we're doing our factorizing, and try and have a look at the videos where we look at trinomials.
Okay,
so
ma'am.
it will go through all of those. I'll quickly speak through this one, but I won't be able to give you the kind of time that you need if you're feeling completely lost with it. So I recommend anyone who's struggling with question C, that's dealing with trinomials. And so I recommend you go and watch the videos that were there in the class where we did this. I'll quickly talk through it now, but yeah, that's my main recommendation. But I will talk through it now. Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yolanda, hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, I want to ask, how did you get that -5?
Okay, so I'll talk about that now. Let me first deal with that. And then we'll get to our brain break now, guys. Don't panic. Okay, so when we're looking at trinomials, the way we deal with our trinomials is we take this constant over here and we look at their different factor pairs. So my factor pairs for 15 would be 1 and 15, because 1 times 15 is 15, and 3 and 5, because 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, then I need to use those factor pairs to get this number over here. So I'm trying to get -2. So I can see, well, I can get 2 with the 3 and the 5, but I need it to be -2. So I'm going to have -5 plus 3, because -5 plus 3 is going to give me -2. And so that's telling me which factor pair I'm wanting. So that tells me what that number is and what that number is. And then we just do our square root of our x to get our x and our x. And that's how we get those two brackets when we do our trinomials. But if you're wanting it in a little bit more detail, then please go and have a look online. I'm going to come back to the answer for D now. I'm going to give you a little brain break because we've gone over our normal time when we do a brain break. So I'm just going to quickly zoom down to our brain break and then we'll go over D. Okay. Also, how cute is this little picture that I found for our brain breaks? It's even little all-stars. It's like, it's so cute. Little brain doing exercise. Come on. I wish you could draw like this. Okay. So, do you want your maths one first, or do you want the riddle first? Riddle. Okay. Riddle first. There is 1 in every corner and 2 in every room. There is 1 in every corner and 2 in every room. Ah, Amber, you're too good at riddles. I don't understand. Do you just have like all of the riddles written down somewhere and you just know all the answers? For those of you who missed the genius that is Amber, the answer is O, because there is 1 in corner and there are 2 in room. It's not a circle, Alvarez, it's the letter O. Yeah, I agree, Eric. Amber should be teaching the English classes next term. Okay, let's have a look at the maths one. And I'm going to give you a little hint of where to start, just because our time is running so low today. This is a good place to start. And I would like to know what my question mark is. And then Unati, I promise I'm coming for that hand to answer D for me. I know what that hand's for and I'm ready for it. I would like to know what this question mark is. Intando! You freaking super speed over there! Can you explain how? Do you feel brave enough to unmute and chat to us? Intando, talk us through, because that was genius that just happened over there.
Well, ma'am, what I did was I divided the 24 by 2 and then I got the answer.
Okay, but that's just your first step. I was looking for this answer over here. Oh my goodness, but you know what? And the answer is 12 and now I've given away the answer. But thank you, sweetheart. That was really good. That was a great start. So the answer was definitely 12, guys. I gave it away, but I shall go through how. So the grapes are 12 because 12 plus 12 is 24, which means that this is 12 here and this is 12 here. And then 1 times anything has to be 12, which means my strawberry has to be 12. And if my strawberry is 12, that means that my pineapples must each be 4. So that pineapple must be 4, which means my watermelon must be 2. Oh, my answer wasn't 12. My answer was 26. What was happening in my brain, guys? Where was the 12 coming from? I'm clearly losing the plot on all levels. But our answer was 26. I gave away nothing. I was just losing my mind. You got it right, Jasmine. Nice job. Kira got it right. Nice. Fikile, how do we get 26 or how am I losing my mind? Because both are good questions and I don't have the answer for both. Yeah, we both need a brain break, 100%. Okay, I'm going to zoom back up to D. Hold on, let me just erase all of this writing. And if you want to try and torture your friends or parents, you can take a quick screenshot. And then we're going to quickly go back up to D. And we're going to go through D and we'll go through another question after that. Okay. All right, Unati, I'm coming for you. Talk me through D.
Okay, ma'am. So this is a trinomial.
It
So
is
you have
correct.
to solve it first. So in your bracket, you're gonna have x. In your first bracket, you're gonna have. Oh, ma'am, should I talk about the factors?
That would be great.
Ish. Okay, ma'am. So 1 times 24.
Good.
2 times 12.
Good.
3 times 8.
Yes.
So, ma'am, you're gonna use 3 times 8.
I am. Good. I'm gonna use 3 times 8. Okay, and if
Ma'am,
I'm
so in
using
the-
3 times 3 and 8, which one has to be positive and which one has to be negative?
8 has to be negative and 3 has to be positive.
Good, because I'm trying to get -5. So -8 plus 3 is going to give me -5. Great. Okay, so what are my brackets going to look like?
In the first bracket, it's gonna be x minus 8. And then in the second bracket, it's gonna be x plus 3 equals to 0.
Beautiful. Answers.
X minus 8 equals to 0, or x plus 3 equals to 0.
Beautiful.
Therefore, your two answers are going to be x equals to 8 and x equals to -3.
100%. Nice. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. Tiana, hello, how can I help?
I swear it was a mistake. I forgot to put my head down.
Oh no, it's okay. Did you manage to get the brain break?
Yeah, ish, but I got so slow today.
Well, clearly, I ruined it for everyone, so don't worry. Today was neither of our days.
Gives it 12 because I'm like,
I
what?
know. You know what it was? Because I worked it out earlier and I wrote it on my page. And then I've got 12 plus 12 plus 2 equals 26. And I think when I quickly looked at my page, I just saw the 12 and I was like, oh, it's 12.
Yeah,
Okay. Quickly take a screenshot if you're needing one, guys. Screenshots, and we will move on to our next one. Oh, Yosef, finding this too easy. Okay, I see you. I'll give you a nice tricky one just now. Jordan as well. Okay. All right. Screenshots, and I'm moving down. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'm done. Okay. Let's try this dude. Okay. Give E a try for me. So think about your steps when you're working through a question like this. Think about what it means when you've got x squared involved. What's the first thing I have to do? Then think about what the second thing is you have to do. Oh, Yosef. I'm still so curious as to what that question was. Please, could you just try and unmute? How is it only you who can't unmute? Everyone else has no problems. Okay. Jasmine, hello.
The first step is to put the 42 over after the 27 minus 27x plus 42 is equal to 0.
Good, excellent. Okay, so plus 42 is equal to 0. So our first step is that we need to make it equal to 0 because it's a quadratic. Great. Okay, next step. Did I lose you, Jasmine?
I only understood the first part.
Okay, no, that's okay. I'll hand on to someone else. Thank you for telling us the first thing to do. Nice job. Okay. Fatu, are you going to tell us our next step?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what's my next step? Just tell me the one next step and then I'm going to go on to someone for the next step, okay?
Okay, take out a highest common factor.
Of what?
of 3
Yes. Okay, what's going to be inside my brackets?
x squared minus 9 plus 14
Minus 9 what?
x
Thank you. Plus
plus 14
14. Okay. Nice.
equals
Okay.
0.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on up this line. Tiana, next step.
Next step is you must work out the trinomial that's inside.
Okay. How do I work out that trinomial though? How do I do a trinomial? What do I do?
So you're gonna say bracket, in the bracket is was the
What are my factor pairs of 14?
14 and 1.
Good.
7.
Good. Okay, which ones am I going to use?
7 plus 2.
7 plus 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
and
no,
negative 9.
Negative.
So
Ish.
negative 2
2.
and negative 7 is going to give me negative 9.
Negative 9.
Okay, so tell me what's going to be inside these brackets.
Inside the bracket is going to be x minus 2, x minus 7.
Beautiful. Okay. Next step. I'm passing on to someone else. Kejo, can you tell me my next step over here?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Ma'am, is x minus 7 equals 2? Or x minus 2 equals 0?
Beautiful. So what are my answers?
X equals 7 and x equals 2.
Nice job. Beautiful, guys. I love that little teamwork there. I think we should do that more often, one step each for each person. Kira, I'm sorry. I keep on seeming your hand just comes up right at the end, but the next one's all yours, okay? Yusuf, you have managed to unmute. The miracles of maths. How can we help?
Ma'am, I just wanted to say, ma'am, your questions are easy. Give harder questions because, like, maths isn't hard for me anymore. Because when I look at before I joined Watobe, when I looked at a question, I thought it was difficult, but now I just break it down.
So what you're saying is I've made you too smart for my own questions.
No, I'm not saying that.
That's what I'm hearing.
Don't take it like that.
Guys, are you also hearing that? Because that's what I've heard that.
Yeah, I'm hearing somebody very smug. Yeah.
Yusuf, I always make sure to give you some nice tricky questions. Don't panic. Okay. Yeah, grade 14 questions. Okay, let's have a look at let's do this one last one tonight, and then we're gonna go somewhere from here. One last one. But Joseph, that's exactly right. We mustn't be scared of the questions when we see them. It's 100% the right thing to do. You break it down into what your steps are going to be and see where you can go to from there. Don't get scared of a maths question. Okay, so think about what the first step we're going to do is here. Try not let it rattle you too much that there's an x cubed. Because you're seeing an x cubed, think about how many answers you're going to get. So when there's an x squared, we're always going to get 2 answers. And if there's an x cubed, what's going to happen? We're going to have 3. Nice, Jasmine. Yeah, good. Good, Belinda. I'm glad. Good. Is he helping or is he hurting, Belinda? I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay. No, man, Alvarez, you'll be fine. You always so dramatic. Okay, so Yosef, you can put it into 3 brackets, but we won't need to put it in all 3 brackets for this one. For our first step, we only need 1 set of brackets. Okay, guys, I'm going to quickly go through this one just because of our time, and then I'm just going to ask you all to do a favor for me, and then I'm going to leave you to quickly do the poll. I don't know if we'll have time for all 3, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so I know I'm going to go through this one quickly. Don't panic. We'll start with one similar to this on Thursday. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take out a highest common factor, which is x. So I'm going to have x, and I'm going to be left with x squared minus x minus 12 is equal to 0. Now in here, I've got a trinomial. When I do a trinomial, I look at my factor pairs of 12. So I've got 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and then 3 and 4. I'm trying to get -1. And so the numbers that I'm going to use are the 3 and the 4. I'm going to have -4 plus 3. That's going to give me -1 because 3 minus 4 gives me -1. So then in my brackets, I'm going to have x plus 3, x minus 4 is equal to 0. And so then I'm left with my 3 answers. My first answer, x is equal to 0, or x plus 3 is equal to 0, which means x is equal to -3, or x minus 4 is equal to 0, which means x is 4. So this is kind of where we started today's lesson. We just had to do one step